Hey guys! Today we're diving into another truly horrifying case. If you want to support my channel, make sure to subscribe and stay active. It really helps me out. I'd be super grateful for that. Let's get started. Achieving greatness in professional sports often involves a heightened level of intensity. Athletes train not just physically, but mentally. They prepare themselves to dominate their opponents. That competitive mindset can be just as crucial as the hours spent in the gym. Many say the most successful athletes thrive on what's called healthy sports aggression. But what happens when that mindset spills over into everyday life, turning into uncontrolled anger and outbursts beyond the arena? The story of former American professional mixed martial artist Jonathan Koppenhaver, better known by his fight name, War Machine, is as compelling as it is disturbing. He went from rising star on a popular reality show to a controversial MMA fighter and successful adult film performer to a convicted offender serving life behind bars. Throughout his career, he built a persona around being a brash, confrontational figure. That image, tough, unpredictable, defiant, made him recognizable and helped boost his popularity. But somewhere along the way, the lines between the character he played and the person he was began to blur. He didn't just step into the cage to fight. His whole life started to feel like a permanent battleground. Jonathan Paul Koppenhaver was born on November 30th, 1981, in the suburban town of Simi Valley, just outside of Los Angeles. He was the oldest of 3 siblings in a working-class family. His father, of German descent, was a dedicated officer in the Los Angeles Police Department, hardworking and disciplined. His mother, an American with Mexican roots, had worked as a nurse in a local hospital. But after the birth of their first child, she decided to leave her job to focus entirely on raising the family and managing the household. Jonathan, often just called John, grew up very close with his younger brother and sister. For a time, their home life was relatively happy and things seemed stable. But after the birth of their youngest sibling, their mother began to spiral into a deep emotional struggle. She slipped into a long-term depression and, searching for relief, began drinking heavily. What started as a coping mechanism soon became a daily habit. Their father worked long hours and was rarely home, unaware of how much things were deteriorating. Over time, their mother's condition worsened, and she began using illegal substances. By the time John was around 10, he had taken on the role of caregiver, not only for his brother and sister, but for his mother as well. He was doing well in school, helped the younger ones with homework, learned to cook, and took care of the house. At the age of 13, John experienced a traumatic event that would haunt him for the rest of his life. One evening, while the entire family was at home, his father suddenly collapsed from a heart-related emergency. Their mother was unconscious after taking another dose of substances, leaving John as the only one able to act. He immediately called emergency services and tried to perform life-saving measures on his own, doing everything he could to keep his father alive until help arrived. Tragically, John's efforts weren't enough. His father passed away before paramedics reached the scene. John was just a kid, but no matter how much he did, he couldn't shake the feeling that he had somehow failed. That burden stayed with him, leaving a heavy emotional scar. What's even more shocking is that despite his mother's ongoing struggles with alcohol and illegal substances, no action was taken to remove the children from her care. They remained with her, and John, still barely a teenager, became the de facto head of the household. They lived off modest savings left by their father, while their mother spent most of her assistance checks on alcohol and powerful chemicals. Despite the chaos at home, John continued to excel academically and was considered one of the top students in his class. Teachers often remarked on his intelligence, drive, and quick thinking, but his behavior outside the classroom began to change rapidly. He became anxious, volatile, and quick to anger, frequently getting into arguments and physical fights with his peers. John started working odd jobs early on, doing whatever he could to help support his family. At the same time, he got seriously into sports, hoping to eventually turn that passion into a career. He found himself drawn to combat sports, not limiting himself to one style, but training across several disciplines. It gave him an outlet, a way to channel his aggression productively, clear his head, and stay focused. Over time, his training routine became a core part of his life. He hit the gym daily, and his coach quickly recognized his natural ability. John had serious potential, and many believed he could go all the way to the top. At the same time, he kept juggling work and school, and excelling at both. He was smart, physically gifted, and incredibly driven. Despite everything he had been through, John managed to graduate from high school with good grades and went on to college. He eventually enrolled at Dixie State University, majoring in biology. He had a sharp mind and did well academically, but the aggression never really left him. His struggle to manage emotions, especially anger, led to multiple run-ins with the law, including several arrests. Even as a teenager, John had made up his mind. He wanted to become a fighter and build a future in MMA. He trained constantly and competed in every event he could find, often coming out on top. Gradually, people in the fight world started to take notice. His name was being mentioned more often, and he was edging closer to a professional career. In 2000, at 19 years old, John decided to audition for a high-profile reality show called The Ultimate Fighter. Modeled after popular formats like Big Brother, this show quickly became a hit with American audiences, but with a twist. Instead of everyday contestants, it featured actual MMA fighters competing for a shot in the UFC. Initially, John didn't make the cut. He was rejected during the casting process, but not long after, one of the selected participants suffered a serious injury and had to drop out. Producers scrambled to find a replacement. While reviewing previous applicants, they landed on the name they had passed over the first time, Koppenhover. All the contestants were moved into one large house, where every room was fitted with multiple surveillance cameras. According to the rules, they had no access to phones, the internet, or any contact with the outside world. The grand prize for the show was a $1 million payout. Each week, one participant was eliminated, not through voting, but by the results of one-on-one fights. Whoever lost had to leave the show and go home. As with most reality TV formats, there wasn't a strict script. Spontaneity and raw emotion were encouraged. John, with his bold personality and confrontational style, quickly became one of the show's most visible figures. Audiences loved his confidence, and he quickly gained a fan base, turning into a breakout reality star. The Ultimate Fighter gained more attention for the drama inside the house than the fights in the ring. What started as a competitive sports series evolved into a kind of high-stakes reality drama. Confrontations, rivalries, and alliances took center stage, and contestants were often divided into opposing groups. John developed a reputation as a hothead and an instigator. He didn't need much of a reason to start a fight. His aggressive attitude kept tensions high, and the show's producers didn't seem to mind. Fans cheered him on, but despite his popularity, John didn't make it to the finals. He was eliminated during the 6th season before reaching the end. Even though John didn't win, his time on the show catapulted him into the spotlight. His professional MMA career gained serious momentum. He made his UFC debut with a win over Jared Rollins. Competing in the welterweight division, John fought in 19 matches total and secured 14 wins. But outside the ring, things started falling apart. John's unpredictable behavior and inability to control his anger led to multiple run-ins with the law. On September 22, 2007, he was arrested for assaulting a man in a parking lot. The two had argued over a space, and the situation escalated into a physical altercation. John reportedly kept hitting the man until he lost consciousness. The victim filed a complaint, and John was taken into custody. But instead of showing remorse, he gave a controversial interview, saying he had done the man a favor because he could have done more damage but chose not to. His comments triggered public backlash and painted him as volatile and dangerous. Surprisingly, this notoriety only boosted his career. John embraced the role of the antagonist. He leaned into his reputation, using it to generate headlines and attention. His behavior drew comparisons to another infamous fighter known for mixing sports success with off-ring controversies, Conor McGregor. By mid-2008, Copenhaver made the decision to legally change his name to the alias War Machine. He believed it perfectly captured both his personality and mindset. It sounded tough, intense, and fitting for the world of full-contact sports that he had immersed himself in. That same year, War Machine found himself at the center of yet another controversy involving an assault. Once again, the conflict started over something minor, but escalated to the point of legal action. To many observers, it was clear that John was heading down a dangerous path in terms of his behavior. He didn't need a reason to get into a fight. He seemed to actively seek out confrontation. Despite the ongoing incidents and arrests, his professional MMA career continued to thrive. He kept competing in major events and racked up one victory after another. His name was becoming increasingly recognized in the MMA world, and it wasn't long before he was invited to compete in the UFC, the sport's most prestigious organization. He even received a Knockout of the Night award, earning praise for his performance in the octagon. In 2009, John made a surprising public announcement. He planned to explore acting, but not in the traditional sense. He chose to enter the adult entertainment industry. With his youthful yet rugged appearance and highly athletic physique, John made an impression on camera. His performances quickly gained attention, and his career in that field became just as talked about as his MMA record. In his first year in the industry, he appeared in 13 films, often alongside well-known performers. He balanced both careers, fight and film, while also signing several endorsement deals that brought in significant income. But his success was once again overshadowed by personal controversy. In August 2010, John was arrested after a violent incident at a California nightclub. He physically attacked another guest, and this time, the severity of the situation left little room for leniency. He was sentenced to 1 year in jail. Shortly after, additional incidents came to light, and his sentence was extended to 2 years and 2 months, with the possibility of parole after 1 year. While incarcerated, John's behavior was as confrontational as ever. He frequently got into altercations and was eventually classified as high risk. As a result, he spent most of his sentence in solitary confinement. By that point, it was becoming clear that his aggression was no longer just part of his competitive persona. Many began to view it as a serious behavioral problem. Some even attributed it to the pressures of fame or emotional instability. After being released, John returned to the ring and secured several notable victories against tough opponents like Roger Huerta, Blas Avena, and Vaughn Anderson. Around the same time, he launched a personal blog and social media page to connect with his growing fan base. His content was unusual, often just him speaking directly to the camera, sharing personal thoughts, reflections, and stories from his past. In just a few days, tens of thousands of fans subscribed to his platform. His audience was diverse. Some followed his fighting career, others were interested in his time in the film industry, and many were drawn by the ongoing controversies that had followed him since his early reality TV days. In 2011, John decided to launch his own line of athletic and casual clothing. The standout features of his brand were its bold, aggressive graphics and tough, in-your-face slogans, designed to build the image of a so-called alpha male. The merchandise was sold mainly through online platforms and quickly gained popularity, helping the business thrive. John continued to act in a confrontational manner, and even in his video blog, he often spoke openly about his anger issues and how hard it was to control them. His language was filled with profanity, and he frequently vented about people who annoyed him, sometimes claiming he wouldn't hesitate to use force if provoked. Occasionally, he'd even film himself in heated exchanges with random strangers on the street. By 2013, he had reached the peak of his adult film career. He appeared regularly in adult productions and participated in provocative photo shoots for well-known magazines. During one of these shoots, he was paired with a model named Christine McKinday, who was known in the industry by her stage name, Christy Mack. She was 11 years younger than John, but despite the age gap, the chemistry between them was immediate, and the two quickly entered into an intense relationship. A bit about Christine. Born in 1992 in a small town in Indiana, she came from a modest family with no ties to the entertainment industry. Former classmates and teachers remembered her as quiet, kind, and responsible, a girl who loved literature, took school seriously, and spent her free time dancing. During high school, Christine fell in love with a classmate, and the two began dating. Eventually, they decided to get married. Both sets of parents were strongly against such a young commitment, but the couple ignored the warnings. As soon as they both turned 18, they made it official. Unfortunately, the marriage didn't last. They quickly realized they were unprepared for adult life. Love faded fast, and within 4 months, they filed for divorce. After the split, Christine wanted a fresh start and made the bold decision to leave home and move to Florida. She settled in Miami, where she took on any job she could find just to pay rent and stay afloat. She worked as a waitress, retail clerk, and even did promotional gigs, until one day she was scouted by a representative from a modeling agency. Christine's first gigs were catalog shoots for fashion brands, but soon she was offered more provocative modeling jobs that came with significantly higher pay. She agreed, and not long after, she began receiving offers to act in adult films. She chose a catchy stage name that soon became widely recognized. Christine became a regular in adult film productions, one of the most notable being a parody based on a popular superhero franchise. Her work earned her several industry awards. In February 2013, she opened her first boutique specializing in intimate apparel and lifestyle accessories. The business took off quickly, expanding into a growing retail chain. At the time they met, both John and Christine were already well-known and successful figures. Each had built a career in the media spotlight and had their own businesses selling branded merchandise. In many ways, they were equally popular. From the very beginning of their relationship, the couple was seen everywhere together. They attended award shows, red carpet events, and industry parties, often posing for photographers and giving joint interviews. They even signed a few brand endorsement deals as a couple with major companies. Within just a few months, John and Christine were viewed as inseparable, a striking, glamorous duo who seemed to have it all. They looked happy, they spoke about future plans, and from the outside, their lives appeared perfect. But behind the scenes, the reality was far more disturbing. Off camera, John was as intense and volatile as he had been in the ring. In public, he played the part of the devoted boyfriend. But in private, he was controlling and manipulative. He monitored Christine's every move, was obsessively jealous, and constantly picked fights. Over time, his behavior escalated into outright aggression. Christine became the target of frequent emotional and physical abuse. He would belittle her, make threats, and there were multiple occasions where he reportedly put his hands around her neck in fits of rage. During one of these episodes, her mother, who happened to be visiting, witnessed the incident firsthand. Horrified, she urged Christine to leave John immediately. John's temper flared easily. He didn't need a reason to explode. Once, during an argument in the car, he suddenly hit the gas and drove straight toward a wall, yelling that he'd take them both out. Christine barely managed to grab the steering wheel in time and avoid a crash. On another occasion, when a similar incident unfolded, she quickly unbuckled her seatbelt and jumped out at a red light. Christine tried to end the relationship multiple times, but John always managed to pull her back in, begging for another chance, making promises to change. Deep down, she knew there was no future with him, but she was afraid. She didn't know how to walk away without setting off another one of his dangerous outbursts. She endured it for a year, carefully weighing her options. Finally, in April 2014, she gathered the courage to have a serious conversation. Christine braced herself for the worst, but to her surprise, John calmly agreed that they needed a break. He told her he understood and seemed willing to give her space. It looked like he had accepted it and was ready to step back, but it only looked that way. For the first month after breaking up with John, Christine lived in a constant state of fear. She kept looking over her shoulder, worried that her ex might come back and start stalking her, but nothing happened. As time passed, Her anxiety began to fade. She returned to her normal life and, by July, started seeing someone new, a man named Corey Thomas. On August 8, 2014, Christine and Corey were at her apartment in Las Vegas. They were lying in bed when John quietly let himself in using a key he had never returned. Without warning, he burst into the bedroom and immediately attacked Corey, striking him repeatedly with his fists. In a frenzy, John bit Corey multiple times, leaving deep wounds on his face, shoulders, and chest. Then he straddled him and began choking him. Christine, terrified, stepped in when she saw Corey starting to lose consciousness. Suddenly, John released his grip, grabbed Corey by the hair, and ordered him to get out and not to call the police, or he'd finish what he started. Shaken and terrified, Corey swore he wouldn't tell anyone. He grabbed a few belongings and ran out of the apartment, still dressing as he fled. True to his word, he didn't report the incident, a silence that nearly cost Christine her life. Once John was alone with his former girlfriend, things took a horrific turn. He beat Christine severely, then continued to subject her to prolonged physical and emotional abuse. The ordeal went on for more than 2 hours. By the end, she was bruised, bloodied, and barely conscious. Believing she had passed out, John stepped away to another room. Somehow, Christine managed to crawl to the window, push it open, and tumble outside. Thankfully, the apartment was on the ground floor, so the fall wasn't fatal. She began screaming for help. Neighbors quickly gathered and called emergency services. Christine's injuries were devastating. John had broken her nose, cheekbone, and jaw. He knocked out 12 teeth and came dangerously close to damaging one of her eyes. She also suffered broken ribs, a ruptured kidney, and liver damage. She lost a significant amount of blood and was diagnosed with a concussion. Her body was covered in bruises, cuts, abrasions, and bite marks. Despite the extent of her injuries and blood loss, doctors were able to stabilize Christine's condition. But by the time she was able to speak and recount what had happened, John had already disappeared. His whereabouts were unknown for a full week. Until on August 15th, he started posting on social media, sharing his version of the story and trying to paint himself as the victim. Authorities traced his phone signal and quickly located and arrested him. Interestingly, Corey didn't call the police until 3 hours after the attack. By that point, Christine was already in the hospital. During those hours of silence, she had been enduring horrifying abuse at the hands of someone who nearly ended her life. Some argued that Corey could have been held legally accountable for not acting sooner, but he claimed he was in a state of shock and feared for his own safety. In the end, no charges were filed against him, and he testified in court solely as a victim. While being held in custody awaiting trial, Koppenhaver attempted to harm himself. He fashioned a makeshift noose out of a bedsheet and tried to end his life in his cell. Fortunately, guards intervened in time and pulled him down. The incident resulted in a nearly 3-month delay in the court proceedings. During the trial, John repeatedly tried to portray himself as the one who had been wronged. He claimed he had been betrayed by his partner, which, according to him, triggered the outburst. His defense attorney spoke at length about his troubled upbringing and childhood trauma, hoping it would earn the court's sympathy and lead to a lighter sentence. On February 15, 2017, John Koppenhaver was found guilty on all counts brought against him. He was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 36 years. Thanks for watching, everyone. Your support means a lot to me, and you can help my channel grow by hitting that like button, dropping a comment, and sharing this video. Your engagement really makes a difference. See you soon.